Hi, I'm Chris from Future Music. We're here at the NAMM Show 2014. I'm here with Glenn from Arturia. Just brought some new products, a piece of hardware called the BeatStep, and a new update for Spark 2.0 software. So Glenn's going to do a little presentation for us and take it away.
Okay, so I'm Glenn from Arturia, and I'm showing you our new product, the BeatStep. The BeatStep is a new general purpose pad and knob controller. We've got 16 pads, all backlit pads. They're pressure and velocity sensitive, and we have 16 step encoders. The pads can send MIDI note messages, they can send program change messages, and they can send MIDI CC messages. The encoders as well can send CCs, they can send NIRPins, they can be in absolute and relative mode. We also have this big knob here, and that can be a 17th knob. Typically we assign it to MIDI CC7 for volume, but you can assign it however you want. On the side panel, we've got USB, we've got MIDI out, and we've got CV and gate out for it. Now, one thing when we were designing this is we said, yeah, we want to build a really nice pad and knob controller box, and we wanted to do it at a great price. But one thing that we noticed in the layout when we were first drawing it up was, hey, this would be a great step sequencer as well. So you have control mode and then you have sequence mode. So it works also as a 16-step sequencer. And you can enable and disable different steps within the sequence. So when we were designing this and laying this out, we said, yeah, it's a great pad and knob box, and especially at the price that it's at. But it also makes a great step sequencer. So we put a sequence mode on it. So now you've got a built-in step sequencer to your pad and knob box. Now on the transports, one thing I didn't mention on the transports is that they will send MIDI CC and MIDI machine control. So you can use them with any DAW software that uses MMC, or ones that don't, like Ableton Live. You can use the ones who don't, like Ableton Live, you can use MIDI CCs. It will also send clock, and it can also sync to external clock. Okay, so right now I'm using it with our SEMV software. And you can see that you can just enable and disable steps like you would. But the beauty is I can go back and forth between control mode and sequence mode. So in control mode I can be editing envelopes and doing stuff, kicking up the delays. And then I can jump back in here and I can modify the sequence. And now these become note shifts. Now with the sequencer, we've got a number of different modes that it can work in. Right now it's going forward, so I'll put it back where you can see it. By holding down Shift, I can make it go reverse. Or alternate, play to the end and go back. And then random mode. And random's probably my favorite when you start breaking in the patterns, because now you start generating random patterns as well. And then you go back into forward mode. You can also shift whether it's quarter note, eighth notes, 16ths, 30 seconds, do all that on the fly. One thing you can do is when you're turning the knobs, sometimes because it's chromatic, it'll seem a little bit random. So what we wanted to do is on the input, we have another mode here where you can change the scales. Now when it's stopped, when I turn a knob, it's going to output a note. So I can set my pitches. But as you hear, it's chromatic, like most step sequencers are. We can shift and turn it into different tuning modes. So now it's in major, minor, blues scale. And then there's also a user scale. So you can choose which notes of the scale you want to be able to turn. So when you're playing live, and you're just in here, and you've got things kind of going on, and you want to be able to turn notes and know that it's going to end up in the right key for what you're doing. Now if I've decided that this is the greatest sequencer ever, I can sit here and store it on the fly. by holding store and choosing any of the 16 presets. There's 16 sequence presets, 16 control presets. But I've decided I love this sequence, but I really wish it was down a key. Now instead of having to go do all those, I can use this knob by holding shift and I can transpose the sequence down. Now also this knob, when I'm not holding down shift, is the rate control. So that's the introduction to the BeatStep. The other thing that we're showing at NAMM this year is an updated version of our Spark software. It's now at version 2.0. So we've given Spark a bunch of new features, a new look and a feel, and adding a whole bunch of new kits to it. As typical for Arturia software, it's going to be a free update to any Spark users. So let me give you a little tour of what we've changed and what's new in Spark now. Okay, so starting on the front panel, you can see that now we show all 16 pads. Before we were just showing 8 pads. The layout's still very similar to the Sparkle layout, but we've just gone more screen space and gotten a little better look, plus showing the 16 pads. You still have your assignable knobs here with all your functions that can be done within that. We've updated the sequencer screen, so now you can see up to 32 steps on one screen here. And you see all 16 instruments at once, whereas before we were showing 8 instruments and you had to scroll up and down. So we've reduced all of the scrolling and kept it into a tabbed display now. So now you can see that you can display up to 2 bars quickly and easily. Being able to pick and choose different parts. You've got your mute solos, all your instruments here. All of your automation is now handled down below. So you can draw it in. You can use different line tools, a bunch of new automation functionality, and just the fact that it's all in one screen now. You don't have to jump around, so the workflow has been greatly improved here. We have a new song mode. The updated song mode allows you to build songs, but it's really based around live performance. So what you have is you have these 16 columns, and within the 16 columns you can drag and drop any of your 64 patterns into whatever order that you want. Now with these 16 columns, what you can do is, using your Spark or Sparkle hardware, is you can recall these columns at any point in time in a live performance. So you may have a chain of 3 or 4 patterns going down in one column, and you want that to be an intro section, and you may want a breakdown section that has 2 or 3 patterns. And if you're DJing live or something, you can be calling these up in real time as you're playing and performing on the hardware. We move to the studio page. The studio page has an all new look. We've got all 16 of the instruments across here. We've got new looks for all the we have new looks for all the parameter fields in this area. We're expanding the sample editing. We've now pulled the effects into this section of the screen as well. It used to be that you'd have to go between the mixer page and the studio page. And really, when you're building the instruments in Spark, the effects are part of the sound. So when you're editing your sound, you want to be able to edit the effects as well. And we've given everything a nice new look and feel to it. One thing that we've added within the studio is that we've added a Rex player. So now you can play Rex files directly on a single pad. You can play individual loops on a single pad. We've always had the ability to split out a Rex file across all your pads, but now we have the ability to play the Rex file on the single pad. So it's really becomes a live looping tool as well. One thing that made Spark unique from all the others all the time, though, was that we weren't just a sampler. We've had a virtual analog engine. The virtual analog engine that's been a part of Spark was basically the core of the Origin synthesizer. And it was a fully modular editor that we sound designers had to be able to use. But now we've brought that out to the end users. So now we've got a full modular synth. You have access to all your different modules here. You've got functionality within each of the modules. You can add, drag and drop. You've got your list of modules down across here. So we can grab a ring modulator and drop that in, and we can patch a filter into the ring modulator. And you've got patch cords and mixers and controls, plenty here. Down in the middle here, these are the 6 knobs that you're familiar with in Spark, where you change you would change each instrument, and you'd notice that there were 6 parameters that would change. Well, this is what they were. What they are, they're macro knobs, and they're knobs that you can assign within the editor. So each one of these knobs, I can assign it to multiple different positions within the map here. So you can see I've got delay parameters, I've got decay time. Within each module, there's all kinds of parameters, and you can assign one knob to control multiple parameters as well as the ranges. So I can choose, let's choose filter 1. We're going to have cutoff. So now this knob is adjusting the cutoff of filter 1, but it's also doing the attack slope, or let's do the decay level of envelope 1. And I can, invert them, do crazy things with values. So now you've got a full virtual analog modular engine. You've got the same access that all the sound designers have had for the last 2 years with Spark. But now it's brought out in a way that you can build your own sounds, get crazy with your own stuff. Depending on the module that you have, whether it's a sample player, a virtual analog instrument, or a Rex player, you'll have your different modules up here, like the sample player. I can mix a sample player with an oscillator. You can choose your different waveforms. You have white noise random, all kinds of things there. You've got LFOs, mixer, CV modulators. You've got Carplus strong filters, and you've got a spring mass resonator, which is pretty cool functionality there. So Spark 2 gives you the full modular VA. Moving on, we've updated the mixer screen. We've got access now where you can see all of these, see all of your effects. Once again, the effects that you have access to back in the studio page, you'll see they're still accessed here in the mixer page. We're going to redo the library page. The library will give you much more searching abilities, more functionality as far as being able to find, load, choose your instruments, audition them. So you can see we've given Spark 2 a lot of new functionality. We've given it a nice new look, much easier workflow to a product that was already probably the easiest workflow drum machine on the market. When Spark 2 comes out, we're going to load about 50 new kits as well. That's 50 times 16, which is 400 and something new sounds that's coming with it. And it will be free.
So I've just come back to ask a few questions, really.
Okay.
So I spotted we've got CV gate out and we've got a MIDI out on the BeatStep as well. So I guess it's bus powered. So you could use this without a computer and control synths and...
Yeah, well, right now I'm powering it off the computer, but you can use any standard USB charger that supplies over 500 milliamps. The other day I had an old phone charger from my 10-year-old Motorola Razr or whatever, and I was using that to power it. So if you're using it with a standalone power, then you can use the MIDI and the CV gate standalone without a computer.
And the MIDI out, I guess it's 3.5. It's got a little adapter, has it?
Yeah, it comes with an adapter that goes from the 3.5 mini jack out to a standard DIN.
Okay. So for people wanting to control modular synths and hardware, it's
yes, CV gate.
Yeah. And does it? And that's output. So
yeah, it's CV gate outs, and it's mainly you can use it with the pads or with the sequencer. With the sequencers. Kind of the coolest way to be using it. I use it with you can use it with your mini brute, your micro brute, any of the standard Eurorack 1 volt per octave tracking devices.
Okay, and so if you are using it with your computer, I guess it's a MIDI CV converter as well, isn't it? So
yeah, it is. Yeah, it'll actually take the USB MIDI and then send it out to the CV, send it out to the MIDI as well. So it's a MIDI expander. And
okay,
yeah, when we designed it, we really wanted to build a general purpose toolbox for that, but also the general purpose pads and knobs. And then, when I was doing my first drawings of it, I said, you know what, I want a step sequencer like this. So I made a step sequencer.
Okay, so sort of to summarise what we've seen today, I mean, when Spark's free,
Spark 2 is a free update coming in March.
okay, and this BeatStep,
This is not free.
no, obviously,
The U.S. street price on this is going to be $99. And we'll be seeing this coming in March as well.
okay, excellent. Well, thanks for stopping by and showing us it all.
Yeah, thank you for having me.